All right, ladies and gentlemen, all of you XFL fans who have been patiently waiting for this week, I apologize for it coming out a little bit late this Monday, but I want to kick it off and get right into it. Put up the standings right here, and we have the St. Louis Battlehawks still in the lead. 2 weeks in a row, 3-1. Defenders still remain second despite taking another loss, 2-2. Guardians do pick up a win to go 2-2. Vipers still down 1-3. And then, of course, in the West, you see the Roughnecks 4-0, the Renegades 2-2, the Wildcats 1-3, and the Dragons 1-3. All right, so that's the standings, and we're going to get right into the first game. The LA Wildcats went up against the Guardians, and this was an interesting game to say the least, because to me, if I have to put away remarks, it was back and forth. There wasn't too much offense, but it also felt like there was a few good things for the Guardians. They didn't drive too much. They had a few 3-and-outs. But when they did drive, it was big. I think Perez had a really good outing. He's had some pretty decent outings when he was in for as a backup, and they decided to give him the start here. I think because McGloin is hurt. But Victor, the rusher, the running back, number 27. He had 82 yards on 18 carries, 4.6 yards on average per carry. That's really good. For the passing game, Perez was 69%, 18-26 with 150 yards, 1 touchdown. Certainly not bad, but not like polarizingly amazing. I think that they had everything go good enough for them. In the receiving, it was all spread out as well. 34, 24, 20 with the passing yards. It was all relatively spread out, no real concentration. I think that the Guardians' strength, and I've been saying this consistently, is that their defense is very strong. It is the strongest half of their team. I think that they do a great job with that, and it certainly showed here. They shut down the Wildcats and really pulled in the victory, even if it was by the skin of their teeth. As for the Wildcats, if we're going to talk about them real quick, Johnson had another good performance. If you look at his stat line, 63%, he was 25 for 40, with 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not bad, still a really good performance passing yards wise. I think he looked still pretty solid, but at times he just couldn't sync up with his wide receivers. McBride, despite having 8 catches and 127 yards with 1 touchdown, he was targeted 12 times. So however it happened, 4 of those didn't happen. There was a lot of misses or miscalculations with Johnson, and I feel like he missed a lot of opportunities that cost them the win. This was, to me, it reminded me of their week 1 where they had a really good showing in the stats, but no points really got put up on the board. I think they got blocked on a kick, or a field goal. I can't remember. This is what happens when you wait 2 days and you watch 4 games. You kind of forget some things, but I didn't think it was a bad game at all. Certainly one of the better games this week, but we'll get into it later. But yeah, pretty decent opener. But I was really excited I wasn't really too hyped for these 2 matches, but I feel like the Wildcats definitely didn't put up the points, yet got the yardage that they needed. So unfortunate for them, but they lost. And the Guardians pick up the win. All right, moving on. Second match of Saturday was the Dragons and the Battlehawks. And oh boy. I might be beating a dead horse here. The score was 23-16. Personally, this is tough. I'll save it for after deciding what the game of the week was for me. That's personal opinion, so I'll save it till after for my closing remarks, if I remember. For me, I think that pulling Silvers was I don't know, it's tough. I think the Dragons have a good team. If I'm going to give And if I'm going to preach a positive for them, I think they have a good team. I think they've got a great fan base, very supportive of them. But I think their quarterbacks, specifically Silvers, just can't seem to get it going. He's just decent, and decent isn't good enough when you're going up against really good teams. Especially here, you got stars like P.J. Walker, Amu, Cardale Jones when he has a good day. And even Jones is getting consistent and getting in that groove. Landry Jones, I'll get into it later, but he isn't bad. So it's tough to stand out, or it's tough for your team to succeed when you just have an okay quarterback in a league where it feels like the quarterbacks are hit or miss. So the best quarterbacks feel like they're elite in comparison to the decent quarterbacks. So they switched over to Daniels, I think, halfway through. And I think one thing that should be highlighted in this game is that Silvers was kind of away from everybody, and one of the commentators was highlighting that he should stop sulking. I want to counteract and say that's an assumption. I think he could be at the point where he's beating himself up because a lot of people give him grief for his performances. So at this point, I'm assuming as well, but to assume that he's sulking and just is completely disconnecting himself from a team, that could be his way of coping, just isolating himself and trying to get over the fact that, dude, I just got benched. Like, I did this wrong, I could have done these things differently. Like, he could be beating himself up. I think people need to show a little bit of support to him, even if he's benched next week. Just to, try to help him out. I think what we need to do, or I think what might be one of the best ideas for the fan base, is really try to bring these players and not build them up rather than tear them down. Like, keep showing support even when they have a bad performance, even though he is consistently not great. Daniels put up points in the passing game. He was 50%. But with 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. But what I will say is he was a rushing machine, 84 yards in 7 attempts. I think they might go with him, although his passing is hit or miss from what I've seen this week. We don't know what will happen next week. But not a bad performance from the Dragons again. They consistently show up and have fairly solid performances. This was a close game. I enjoyed it from start to finish. The Battlehawks, of course, being at home. I love the Battlehawks fan base. Last week they had 29,000 in attendance. This week they had 27,000. I think that's awesome. Way to keep showing support for them. And I will say, despite that one loss to the Roughnecks, I still call a little bullcrap on the encroachment from when they faced. But what I will say is the Battlehawks are emerging so far after 4 weeks as one of the best teams that can rival the Roughnecks. And I'm excited and I'm kind of hoping that these two face again in a rematch in the championship. Despite me being a Defenders fan, that's besides the point. Jordan Ta'amu, I keep saying, he looks like he's one of the most consistently accurate and successful quarterbacks in the league. I might argue that he looks better than P.J. Walker. At least those two are neck and neck in terms of my liking to them. They do a great job on all aspects. I think P.J. Walker's a highlight machine, but that's besides the point. Jordan Ta'amu scrambled 16 times, got 63 yards. He passed 74%, 20 and 27 with 264 yards, 1 touchdown. In terms of receiving, Pearsonell got 5 catches, 71 yards. That was the standout guy. Mumphrey got 51 yards. There was a few. I will make a remark. I can't remember the guy's number. I think it was number 25, 26, or 23. I can't remember for the Battlehawks, I think, who really just seemed like he was egging a fight or trying to get involved with people. He was doing it last week with the Guardians. I don't know why. That could be a personal choice. Maybe he's trying to get into people's head by irritating them. I don't think it's good to keep doing that because you could really get some penalties on you. And he got penalized several times for it. But yeah. Nonetheless, I thought it was a really great game and what a way to close out Saturday. Moving on to Sunday, Roughnecks versus Renegades. Man, 27-20. It was close. It was close. All these teams, I love how people keep putting up the Roughnecks as this unstoppable force. But so far, they had a close call with the Vipers, close call with the Battlehawks, and now a close call with the Renegades. And this came down to the last drive. We'll get into that in a second. PJ Walker continues to be a fairly decent performer, 61% passing. He was 25 and 41, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not much in the rushing game, 39 yards by the leader with Butler. PJ Walker couldn't really hook up with Cam Phillips this time because they were praising it, and he only got 1 catch, 9 yards. I think this was a game, I think there was one call early where PJ Walker fired it downfield. I thought the guy was in, but it's whatever. But I also think the Renegades got lucky with that one call where they broke over the plane and the ball fell out of his hand afterwards. I don't know for sure if that's a fumble or not. I'm not sure. But I thought it was iffy. Regardless, I thought it was a really awesome game. I had so much fun watching it. And I think PJ Walker had more errors this week than the previous couple weeks. He looked mortal instead of unstoppable, although he still had his cool moments in the pocket. As for the Renegades, the rusher Dunbar, number 25, and Artis Payne. Artis Payne, I gotta say, when you look at his stat line on here, it says 12 attempts for 31 yards. But I will say this: whenever he ran for those minimal yards, it was like he wasn't going to get anything and just plowed right through people and got yards. Even if it's 2, 3, or 4 yards, he got something out of nothing every time. And that's what I loved about it. So even if that was not really standout statistics, I thought that was a great job on his part. Dunbar, number 25, in rushing, had 48 yards in 9 attempts with 1 touchdown. Landry Jones, he threw 66%. 205 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Nagel, I think, Flynn Nagel, number 3, had 6 catches, 76 yards. He also bobbled it when Nelson, the backup quarterback, I think tried to throw that screen pass to him on the 3-yard line, and Nagel bobbled it, and that was what a pick by the Roughnecks there. That was shocking for me and amazing. Play, even though I want to see them lose. It's besides the point. One of the big highlights and stories from that game, Landry Jones's leg. Somebody fell on his leg, and for anybody that doesn't know, Landry Jones has been wearing that knee brace after I think he had an ACL tear. I can't remember, but basically he got injured earlier in the season on the first practice day. He was rehabbing it, trying to get healthy. And he wore a giant brace the past couple weeks, and he didn't look comfortable in the pocket to start, just made a few bad calls. The refs were the commentators were ripping him up. I hate Olsen on commentary. He's talking about how he's making terrible calls with the picks. One of them, I can see where it looked good, but the Roughnecks just closed the gap. The other one, he had the wide receiver. It just slipped through his fingers, and it bounced back and went right to a Roughneck. The one pick, I think, the criticism was totally fair. Just to defend his case a little bit, Landry Jones went down with his leg getting hit, and he was limping. I haven't gotten any reports, but from what I read in comments, people are saying it might be an ACL or MCL tear, just from how it happened. And I think even if you're not a fan of Landry Jones or really dislike him, I think one of the most heartbreaking moments was right after Nelson threw the pass over to Nagel, who dorked it up for the Roughnecks to catch it. They cut over to him, and it showed him crying on the sideline, I think in pain, and that just broke my heart, mainly because I remember watching years ago RG3. This was a little bit different circumstances, but he wore a giant brace, and I know people can say what they want, but Gosh dang it, dude. It brought flashbacks. Not the same because RG3's leg really got rocked, but just seeing that happen to another quarterback, it's just absolutely awful. Even Alex Smith, when his shin got snapped, reminded me of Joe Theismann. Just these horrific injuries. Even the Dragons had a scary injury. I forgot to mention that. I'm glad that they all haven't, it's like nobody died. But I really hope that these people get healthy and back into commission, especially Landry Jones, because that absolutely sucks. Going to the last game, I think that this was the worst game, as much as it pains me to say it, worst game of the week, just in entertainment value. Also because I was disappointed with my team. Instead of throwing picks this time, the defenders just couldn't get a drive. It was a lot of 3-and-outs. A lot of 3-and-outs. Cardale Jones was 41%, 9 for 22, 72 yards, 1 interception. Pumphrey rushed for 34 yards. The commentators were trying to hype up a little bit of controversy between Jones and Tompkins. I think that the tensions were just high in the team because of 2 crushing defeats. They just need to bounce back and recover. Cornelius looked great. I know that there was some controversy with Flowers. I don't know what's going on. I heard that he left the team, but he's still on the roster. I don't know the full details. But Cornelius threw 24 for 31, 77%, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. In terms of rushing, holy crap, look at this stat. 24, Smith, he had 24 attempts, 122 yards. And then Jay Patrick, number 29, had 21 rushing attempts and 108 yards. That is amazing. Receiving, D. Williams, number 81, had 7 catches, 72 yards. Good performance by the Vipers. I will say they missed, I think it was 2 field goal attempts or 1. But just the pacing of the game, because they scored so early and then nothing happened for such a long time until the fourth quarter. It felt like the game was dragging on, and that's what happens. But yeah, that's the end of the week. Next week, all right, so now I'm going to go into my remarks. I'll advertise next week. First game will be Dragons and Roughnecks. Second will be Guardians and Renegades. Battlehawks and Defenders, which I'm hoping is going to be a great game. And the Vipers and the Wildcats. So that's next week. As for who I'm going to award the game of the week to, this is just personal opinion. Oh, man. It's close, but I'm going to go Battlehawks and Dragons this week. I had a lot of fun watching it. It's close with the Renegades and Roughnecks, don't get me wrong. It's just, oh my goodness, the picks. The picks were just frustrating. But both were so good. I had a tough time choosing, but I'm going to go with the Battlehawks in this one. But I will say Roughnecks and Renegades were so close. What a great game between those 2 teams. As for remarks, more remarks, I thought it was hilarious that one of the Guardians threw the flag right back at the referee. I know they flagged him for it, but once again, I really feel like you could have some funny one-liners in the interviews, because they asked him, what happened there, and he said, "I let my frustrations get the best of me." That was the perfect opportunity to tell the interviewer, listen, I thought we were playing hot potato, so I threw the flag back as fast as I could. I know that's cheesy and stupid, but just to have fun with it, trying to make it into a joke to help, I don't know, show a comedic side of these guys instead of just a one-dimensional, all right, it's, I should stop saying, Try to show that they're still having fun, even when there is beef or tensions are high. Interviews, I thought were okay. Once again, I hope that they do or ask more questions or better questions than just the generic offbeat ones. I still am under the firm belief, don't interview the coaches during the quarters, interview them in between. I'm fine with the players being interviewed. I think they're doing fine with what they've got so far. So yeah, if I missed anything or in this video, fire down in the comments to remind me, or if there's points that I didn't cover here and you want to discuss in the comments down below, let me know. I'm willing to discuss it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to the video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, of course, if you choose. But most importantly, and as always, shoot 'em, Mad Army. I hope to see you all next week in Week 5.